Welcome to Charlotte Readers Podcast, where authors give voice to the written words. I'm your host, Landis Wade, and as you can tell, we're not in the podcast studio today. We're at Park Road Books, the sponsor for our show, and I'm with Cathia Friou, an author who appears in Season 1 of the podcast. Cathia, welcome.
Thanks, Landis.
Yeah, so you've sort of put yourself out there. You've written a book about divorce, your own divorce, right?
Yes.
And it's called Rock, Paper, Scissors, Scenes from a Charmed Divorce.
Mm-hmm.
And I got to ask you, was it hard to write about your divorce and put yourself out there like that?
Yes to both.
Yeah.
It was very difficult, gut-wrenching, actually, to write about it. And I kept thinking that was just the junk that needed to get out before I got to the real story about walking the Camino. But as it turns out, that's really the story that wanted to be written. And I was nuts to put all this out there, I think. But so far, it hadn't blown up or anything.
Yeah, and you mentioned the Camino in your preface, which you're going to read in just a minute. Tell the viewers who might not know what we're talking about.
Well, the Camino is an ancient Christian pilgrimage in northwestern Spain that people have been walking for 2,000 or more years. And it's something I learned about by watching the movie The Way. I had never even heard of it. And
Martin Sheen, right?
Yep. Yeah. And I went over there 2 years after I got divorced and had all kinds of experiences along the Camino that are in this book. And it taught me quite a lot.
Now, did walking that long trail sort of bring some clarity to your life and help you find out some things about yourself you maybe didn't know before?
Yeah, I'd say I learned quite a few things, and there's some stories in the book, so I don't want to.
And you met a few
I don't want to
people,
blow
too.
it.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right, well, let's start out with a preface. It's a good place to start. Could you read that for us? Sure.
Yeah. Our story could never be a country music song. We didn't leave each other for another. We didn't have to sell the family home. I didn't have to go back to work to support myself. There wasn't addiction, domestic violence, or mental illness in the mix. We didn't have to split friends or jockey for alliances. Our children continue to thrive. I've learned that divorce is an illusion, especially when kids are involved. You can end the marriage, live apart, date other people, even fall in love again, and you are still tied to the other person in ways you may not realize and almost certainly don't want. While married, I came to believe that marriage is a flawed institution, and now I see that divorce is too. Originally, this was going to be a book about my adventures walking the Camino de Santiago, but that's not the book that wanted to be written. Instead, it's about my inner odyssey on the path of divorce, the metaphorical Camino I've been walking since 2010. How do you walk away from a highly functional relationship and a perfectly good guy? How do you pledge fidelity to your soul and agree to blow up your life simultaneously? How do you jerk the rug out from under your children and assign yourself sole accountability for changing the trajectory of their 10 and 12-year-old lives? When was the first time we did or said something or left something unsaid that put us on the path to divorce? If a warning bell had sounded, could we have righted ourselves? Or does marriage have a shelf life and our time was simply up? Was it all just a big misunderstanding, the uncoupling? Did I make it all up? Could we have tried harder, different, better? If we're this civil and even friendly, then why, exactly, did we split up? This is the story of a charmed divorce.
So, Cathia, is there such a thing as a charmed divorce?
No. No, I mean, not at all.
But it's a good title, right?
It's a great title. I mean, there are charmed circumstances,
Sure.
and that's what we had. But I think that a divorce of any kind, whether you're the leaver or the left, is an absolute gutting. I mean, no matter the circumstances. Now, I think it is a little easier when some of the circumstances are charmed, when there's not financial ruin, when there's not another person, when not too many outer circumstances have to change, and there's maybe material comfort and you get along. I mean, those are all
We talked about some of the
charmed.
charms on the podcast. You talked about how you and your now ex-husband worked together to make things right with your children.
Yeah.
You actually even went back and forth to Chapel Hill for like Parents' Day together.
Sure. We've done lots of school things and family things together over the last 8 years. Mm-hmm.
And the one I like is on the ride back, where it's Stuart, right?
Yeah.
He's asking you about whether you've gotten on Bumblebee or whatever those, whatever the online dating site. What is it?
Bumble.com.
Bumble.com. Okay.
Yes.
All right. So anyway, and you said, no, I hadn't yet. But then you kind of step out there and put yourself out there. So tell us what happened when you did that,
Well, it was somewhat surreal that we were having the conversation about dating, but I guess that speaks to the friendship that we have now. And he said, I think you should try Bumble. It's where the woman reaches out and you might, like it. And I was like, okay. I hadn't really heard of that yet. This was a few years ago before it was popular. And I get home.
He's an expert by now, right? He's
a prolific dater. Who knew? And so I get home and I'm swiping. I've just signed up and I'm swiping through and like on the third match, there he is. And I was like, oh my goodness.
Your ex-husband. Yeah.
My ex-husband, looking really, kind of cute
just like
and
the song,
charming. And I was like,
Pina coladas and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah,
and
exactly.
Dancing in the rain.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah. But I didn't, we didn't match.
You didn't pick
I moved
him?
on. I swiped right, I think it is, for the, yeah.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So the experience of writing the book, did it help you through the process, and have you heard from readers that the book has meant something to them too?
Yeah. I think it helped me a lot. A lot of people were talking about it. It must have been this amazing catharsis, and I guess it was on some level, certainly, but it was also, I was writing to understand. I think I write to try to answer unanswerable questions, and not that I even came up with an answer. But it was definitely very much worth the doing. I feel a little lighter, perhaps. And as far as other people, I've gotten a lot of great feedback from both men and women, and it's been really gratifying. But some of the funny feedback I've gotten is I've had more than one person say, well, my divorce was absolutely a country music song. So, but.
Well, you also you were talking about how when you were doing the draft stage, you weren't going to hide anything from your husband. You were going to share the draft with him and let him take a look at it. And I think you wanted him to just know, what was going to be in there. And then he asked you, you asked him if it was okay to have his name in the book or something. And he asked you.
Well, I said, Stuart, do you mind if I use your name as I'm telling this story? And he said, well, are you going to be using your name? And I said, well, yeah, it's going to be on the cover. He was like, okay, sure, that's fine. But I also asked him to read his sections to make sure he was comfortable with what I was saying and that I was telling it in an accurate way. And he said, oh, no, I want to read all of it. I want some context.
Okay.
So I was
but
like,
he's been a
great.
good sport about it, right?
Yeah, he's definitely a good sport. Another one of the charms.
Okay. So, and what do you think of the podcast? Charlotte
it's
podcast?
great. Yeah, I love it. It's a wonderful invention that you've done for us here. Really cool to see all the Charlotte writers. I didn't even know we had so many wonderful people in town, from little obscure first-timers such as myself to some of the bigger names, yourself included,
a lot of
award winner.
A lot of hiding in plain sight.
That's right.
Yeah,
that's right.
Well, thanks for coming on today. I appreciate it.
Thank you. Thanks.
Well, that's it for today. Another fine author giving voice to her written words. If you'd like to listen to Cathia's episode, you can do so by going on Apple Podcasts or wherever you like to get your podcasts, or by going to the website, charlottereaderspodcast.com. Until the next episode, I'm Landis Wade for Charlotte Readers Podcast.